Welcome. Today's deep dive is brought to you by Skip Benton with Coldwell Banker Select Real Estate. If you are looking to buy a home in northern Nevada, then contact Skip. Welcome to our deep dive into the world of baby boomers, their housing plans, and how it all impacts younger generations like you. You've given us some really fascinating articles from The Mortgage Point.
Yeah.
It's a great resource for all things mortgages and housing trends.
I mean, it's pretty timely, too.
Oh, yeah.
This year, the youngest baby boomers are hitting that milestone 60th birthday.
Wow.
And collectively,
Oh, wow.
they're sitting on trillions.
Trillions.
That's right. Trillions of dollars in home equity.
Oh, my gosh.
What are they planning to do with all of it as they head into retirement?
Well, that's what we're here to explore today.
That's what we're going to explore.
We're also looking at some really fascinating findings from a recent Freddie Mac study on baby boomer homeowners.
Right.
And their attitudes towards housing and retirement. It's packed with intriguing stats.
Yeah.
For example, did you know that while a majority of boomers are confident about a comfortable retirement, fewer are certain than just a few years ago? We're going to unpack that and also look at how many plan to age in place versus downsize.
Okay.
And get this, some are even open to living with their kids.
That's right. To really grasp the impact of these choices, we need to start with the sheer size of the baby boomer generation.
Okay.
We're talking about 65 million people.
65 million.
That's a huge segment of the population making big decisions at the same time, and those choices can create ripples across the entire economy.
Wow.
Especially when it comes to housing.
And get this, the Mortgage Point articles point out that baby boomers own a whopping 50% of all U.S. home equity.
It's true, and that's not by accident. Average household net worth for baby boomers has increased significantly.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is due to house price appreciation over the past few decades.
Makes sense.
Think about it. If you bought a house 30 years ago, chances are its value has skyrocketed.
Absolutely.
This appreciation has translated into some serious wealth for many baby boomers. We're talking an average of $486,000 per household.
Per household.
According to the Mortgage Point.
Okay, so they've got this wealth built up largely thanks to their homes. But what are their feelings about retirement itself?
Right.
The Freddie Mac study found that 68% feel confident about a comfortable retirement.
Okay.
Now, that's still a majority.
Yeah.
But it's a noticeable dip from previous years.
Oh.
Back in 2016, it was 76%.
Okay.
And in 2021, it was even higher at 81%.
Wow.
So what's driving this shift? What are your thoughts on this decrease in certainty?
Well, it's a complex issue, of course. It could be a combination of factors. We've seen some economic uncertainty lately with inflation and worries about a possible recession.
Right.
Healthcare costs are also a major concern for many as they age.
For sure.
And there's perhaps a growing awareness of the realities and challenges of aging that weren't as prominent in previous years.
Okay.
What's fascinating is that the study found a difference in confidence levels between those who are already retired and those who are still working. Retired boomers tend to be more optimistic. What do you make of that?
That's a really interesting point about retired boomers being more optimistic.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe actually living through retirement paints a rosier picture than anticipating it?
It's certainly possible. When you're still working, retirement can feel like this big unknown.
Yeah.
But once you're in it, you might find that it's not as scary or as expensive as you imagined.
Right.
Maybe you discover new joys and freedoms that you didn't anticipate.
Okay.
It's worth considering how those pre-retirement anxieties might differ from the actual experience of retirement.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this massive generation approaching retirement, many with significant home equity.
Right.
What are they planning to do with it all, especially when it comes to their housing?
Well, the dominant trend, according to the Mortgage Point, is that baby boomers want to age in place,
Okay.
stay in their current homes.
Okay.
A significant 68% of them say that's their plan.
I can totally see that. If you spent years building a life in a house you love, filled with memories, why uproot everything?
Precisely. It's familiar, it's comfortable,
Yeah,
and it holds a lot of sentimental value.
for sure.
However, the picture gets a bit more interesting when we dig deeper.
How so?
Well, even though aging in place is the prevailing sentiment, a significant portion of baby boomers are open to other options.
Okay.
The Mortgage Point article highlights that 66% of boomers who are considering moving say they want to downsize.
That makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
The article also mentioned that almost 90% of the boomers surveyed currently live in homes with 3 bedrooms or more.
Right,
So there's definitely room to scale down,
for sure.
especially as the kids move out and they need less space.
Exactly. And it's not just hypothetical.
Right.
It's already happening.
Oh, wow.
The Mortgage Point article points out that 36% of boomers who moved in the past decade actually did downsize.
So while aging in place is popular, there's clearly a sizable chunk of the boomer population open to other options.
Yeah.
And some of those options are pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
Like the idea of living on their children's property.
Yeah.
The Mortgage Point article mentioned that a surprisingly high percentage of boomers would consider that right.
You're right. That was one of the more eye-opening findings for me, too.
Really?
A significant 68% said they'd be open to living on their children's property.
Wow.
That speaks volumes about how family dynamics and housing needs are changing.
For sure.
We're also seeing more interest in things like ADUs.
ADUs.
Those are additional dwelling units, essentially smaller independent living spaces built on someone else's land.
Oh, interesting.
The Mortgage Point article said that 32% of boomers would consider an ADU.
It's kind of like a modern twist on the multi-generational family home, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It represents this interesting blend of independence and closeness that many baby boomers seem to be seeking. And it's worth pointing out that there's a gender difference here.
All right.
40% of women versus 25% of men are open to living with their adult children.
Wow, that's a pretty high percentage of boomers open to living on their children's property.
Yeah.
Do you think this trend is sustainable in the long run?
Well,
And what are the potential downsides? Are we going to see more family conflicts arise from these arrangements?
that's a really important question.
Are there ways to mitigate those risks?
One that deserves more exploration. It's easy to romanticize the idea of multi-generational living,
Yeah.
but it's not without its challenges.
Yeah.
That there's the potential for conflicts over space, privacy, decision-making,
Yeah.
and even financial contributions.
Right.
Not to mention the logistical hurdles of creating comfortable and functional living spaces for multiple generations under one roof.
It's true. Those are real concerns that families need to consider carefully.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is this trend purely practical, driven by financial considerations or caregiving needs?
Right.
Or is there a deeper desire for connection and a sense of community driving these choices?
It could be both.
Maybe it's a bit of both.
I think you're right.
Yeah?
It's probably a complex mix of factors,
Makes sense.
but the trend itself is definitely significant and worth watching closely.
Okay.
And speaking of significant,
Okay.
let's talk about home equity.
Okay, let's dive into that. The Freddie Mac study found that 75% of baby boomer homeowners,
Right.
and that's across gender and race,
Mm-hmm.
plan to leave their homes
Right.
or the proceeds from selling them
Yeah.
to their children or relatives.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that incredible $17.3 trillion figure.
Oh, wow.
Remember, that's how much home equity baby boomers currently own.
Okay.
It's a massive amount. Half of all the home equity in the entire U.S.
Jeez.
We're talking about a huge wealth transfer that's poised to happen,
Okay.
and it has potentially massive implications.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the impact of this wealth transfer? It could be a game changer for younger generations, giving them a leg up in a tough housing market.
Right.
But there are also concerns about potential downsides.
You're spot on. It's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
On the one hand, this inheritance could help younger generations overcome the financial hurdles of buying a home in today's market, especially with rising prices and interest rates.
Right.
It could be a lifeline for those struggling to get on the property ladder.
For sure.
On the other hand, it could exacerbate existing wealth disparities.
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Yeah.
If this wealth isn't distributed equitably, it could actually widen the gap between those who inherit a significant financial boost and those who don't.
Right.
It's a complex issue with the potential for both positive and negative outcomes.
Precisely. And it's one that deserves careful consideration and thoughtful planning,
Yeah.
both on an individual and a societal level. It's not just about passing down assets. It's about ensuring that future generations have a fair shot at achieving financial stability and building a secure future.
Absolutely. It's
Right.
about more than just dollars and cents.
Right.
It's about creating a more equitable society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this generational wealth transfer on the horizon. But what about the boomers themselves? How are they planning to fund their own retirement? especially with the potential of leaving their homes or the proceeds to their heirs.
Well, the mortgage point highlights that boomers are planning to tap into a variety of sources for their retirement income.
Okay.
Social security investments, pensions, and savings.
Yeah.
And it seems they're generally in a pretty good financial position.
Okay.
Many own their homes outright.
Yeah.
And a good chunk of those with mortgages have rates below 4%.
That's good news.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're not exactly struggling,
Right.
even with the economic ups and downs we've seen lately.
Right.
But what about tapping into that home equity? Are things like reverse mortgages on the table for many boomers?
Actually, not really.
Really?
This study found that only 9% are looking to tap into their home equity through reverse mortgages,
That's interesting.
which again suggests they're feeling relatively confident about their financial future, at least for now.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So they're not rushing to cash in on their homes, even with the potential of leaving that wealth to their heirs.
Right.
I wonder, though, what happens if the housing market takes a downturn?
Well,
Will we see a shift in these attitudes?
yeah.
With more boomers looking to downsize or tap into their home equity?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll need to keep a close eye on.
Yeah.
The housing market is cyclical,
Uh-huh.
and we know that what goes up must eventually come down.
True.
How boomers react to a potential downturn will be fascinating to observe.
That's true.
Will they hold on to their homes hoping for a rebound? Or will they become more pragmatic about their housing choices? Only time will tell.
It's true. Predicting the future of the housing market is always a challenge.
Right.
But one thing is for sure.
Yeah.
The decisions baby boomers make today will have ripple effects for decades to come.
Absolutely. And those ripples will extend far beyond their own generation,
Wow.
impacting their grandchildren, and even future generations.
Okay.
It's a complex web of interconnected choices and consequences.
Wow.
And understanding the dynamics at play is crucial for navigating the road ahead.
For sure. It really is fascinating to see how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
And as you said, the decisions made by this generation will have a ripple effect on everyone.
Right.
I can't help but think about the emotional aspect of all this.
Right.
Inheriting a family home is so much more than just acquiring an asset.
Mm-hmm.
It's about memories,
Yeah.
family history,
Yeah.
and a sense of belonging.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
It's not just a financial transaction, it's an emotional one, too.
Yeah.
That house probably holds a lifetime of memories for both the boomers and their children. Think about all the holidays celebrated.
Oh, yeah.
The milestones marked,
Right.
the laughter and tears shared within those walls.
Oh, for sure.
It's a legacy, a symbol of family connection that goes far beyond monetary value.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder about the potential for conflict.
Right.
What happens when siblings have different visions for the family home?
Yeah.
Or when the financial realities of maintaining the property clash with the sentimental value attached to it?
Those are valid concerns, and they highlight the importance of open communication and careful planning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about what happens to the bricks and mortar.
Right.
It's about how families navigate these transitions together respectfully and with sensitivity to everyone's feelings.
For sure.
It's crucial for families to have honest conversations
Yeah.
about their expectations, their financial situations,
Right.
and their emotional attachments to the property.
It sounds like we need a whole new set of tools and resources to help families navigate these complex financial and emotional landscapes.
Yeah.
Perhaps financial literacy programs specifically designed to address intergenerational wealth transfer,
Right.
or conflict resolution strategies for families facing these tough decisions.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
We need to equip families with the knowledge and skills to navigate these uncharted waters,
Yeah.
and maybe even new legal frameworks
Oh, wow.
that recognize the unique challenges of inheriting property in today's rapidly changing world.
Interesting.
Think about property taxes, for example.
Okay.
In some areas, they can be a significant burden,
Yeah.
especially for those who inherit a home
Mhm.
but don't necessarily have the income to support those costs.
You're bringing up an important point about the potential burden of inheritance.
Right.
It's not always a windfall,
Right.
and it's not just about the boomers.
Uh-huh.
Their decisions will impact Gen X,
Right.
millennials,
Yep.
and even Gen Z. Those generations are watching, learning, and trying to adapt to a housing market that looks completely different from the one their parents and grandparents navigated.
Exactly. And they're facing their own set of challenges.
Okay.
Student loan debt,
Uh-huh.
stagnant wages,
Yeah.
a fiercely competitive job market.
Right.
It's a different landscape, and the rules of the game have changed.
Sure.
the traditional path to homeownership,
Right,
get a good job, save for a down payment, buy a house.
right.
It's not as straightforward anymore.
It really makes you appreciate the unique challenges facing each generation.
Yeah.
What role do you think technology plays in all this?
Yeah.
We were seeing the rise of online real estate platforms,
Right?
virtual tours,
Yeah.
even AI-powered tools for home valuation and financing.
Mm-hmm.
How are these innovations shaping the way we buy, sell, and inherit property?
Technology is absolutely a game changer.
Okay.
It's democratizing access to information and resources,
Okay.
making it easier for people to research properties, compare options. Yeah.
And connect with potential buyers or sellers all at their fingertips.
Makes sense.
But it also raises questions
Okay.
about digital literacy,
Uh-huh.
data privacy,
Right.
and the potential for bias in algorithms.
That's true. Like with any powerful tool, it's all about using it responsibly and ethically.
Right.
It's not about fearing the future.
Yeah.
It's about shaping it with intention and foresight.
I like that perspective.
Right.
We need to be mindful of the potential pitfalls while harnessing the power of technology to create a more efficient, transparent, and accessible housing market for everyone.
Yeah.
And this leads us to a crucial point:
Okay.
the interconnectedness of housing with other critical issues like climate change, social justice, and economic mobility.
Yeah.
We can't solve one without addressing the others.
That's such an important realization. It's all part of this bigger picture of how we live, work, and connect as a society.
Right,
Housing is not just about shelter.
right.
It's a foundation for building a life, raising a family, and contributing to a community. Absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that we need to move beyond the every generation for themselves mentality
Okay.
and embrace a more collaborative approach.
Okay.
The decisions boomers make today will impact their children, grandchildren, and even generations beyond.
For sure.
We need to recognize that shared responsibility and work together to create a housing future that benefits everyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not about pitting generations against each other.
Right.
Instead, it's about finding common ground,
Yeah.
fostering empathy and understanding,
Uh-huh.
and working toward solutions that create a more just and equitable society for all.
Exactly.
And I think conversations like this are a great starting point.
For sure.
Openly and honestly exploring the challenges and opportunities ahead without judgment or blame is crucial.
Couldn't agree more.
Right.
Open dialogue, informed decision-making,
Yeah.
and a willingness to adapt are essential for navigating this complex, ever-evolving landscape.
Well said. And for our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has provided you with some valuable insights and sparked some new ideas about the future of housing.
Remember, this is a topic that affects us all, and it deserves our attention and engagement.
Yeah.
It's not just about the big picture trends.
Fine.
It's about the individual choices we make every day.
Exactly. Whether you're a baby boomer planning for retirement,
Yeah.
a millennial hoping to buy your first home, or a Gen Zer just beginning to think about your financial future, the decisions you make today will have a ripple effect for years to come.
That's a powerful message to carry with us. You have the power to shape your own future and contribute to building a better housing landscape for everyone.
Okay.
Don't underestimate the impact of your choices.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
It's been a truly fascinating journey.
Thanks to you, and a huge thank you to our amazing listeners for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes.
We appreciate your curiosity and your willingness to explore these complex and important topics with us.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
You know, it's been really eye-opening to look at these different generational perspectives.
Yeah.
I'm curious, with all this talk about boomers and their home equity,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to younger generations who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this?
Yeah.
What steps can they take now
Right.
to plan for their own housing futures?
That's a fantastic question. It's easy to get caught up in the headlines about a potential inheritance windfall,
Right.
but it's important for younger generations to focus on what they can control right now.
Okay.
Building good financial habits is key.
Okay.
Saving, investing, and managing debt wisely.
It's like that saying, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Right.
But in today's world, it feels like you need to save a whole lot more than a penny to even think about buying a house.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
The reality is that the housing market is tough for younger generations. But that doesn't mean giving up on the dream of homeownership. It just means being strategic, informed, and perhaps a little bit creative.
Okay.
Explore all your options,
Yeah.
from different types of mortgages to alternative housing models like co-housing or tiny homes.
Right.
Don't be afraid to think outside the traditional box.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
Everyone's situation is unique, and what works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
It's all about finding what fits your lifestyle, your budget,
Yeah.
and your long-term goals.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is power.
Okay.
The more you understand about the housing market, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions.
Right.
Do your research,
Okay.
talk to experts,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's so important. Being proactive and seeking out information.
Yeah.
Don't just rely on what you hear from friends or family or social media.
Right.
There's a wealth of resources available.
Right.
From government agencies to nonprofit organizations to financial advisors. Tap into those resources and empower yourself to make the best choices for your future.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's important to remember that this isn't just about individual success.
Yeah.
It's about collective well-being.
Okay.
We all have a role to play in creating a more equitable and sustainable housing future for everyone.
That's a great point to circle back to.
Yeah.
It's not just about boomers versus millennials versus Gen Z.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together. The choices we make, the policies we support, the conversations we have, they all contribute to shaping the world we want to live in.
Exactly. And I'm hopeful that by understanding the complexities of the housing market,
Yeah.
by acknowledging the different challenges and opportunities facing each generation,
Right.
and by working together to find solutions, we can build a future where everyone has a place to call home. A place that's safe, affordable, and filled with possibility.
That's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
And one I think we can all get behind. It's
Yeah.
been such a pleasure exploring these topics with you today.
The pleasure was all mine.
I feel like I've learned so much, not just about housing trends, but about the human stories behind them.
It's always rewarding to engage in these thoughtful discussions and to share insights that hopefully empower our listeners to make informed decisions about their own lives.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of baby boomers housing and the future of homeownership.
It's great having you.
We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Until next time, keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep dreaming big.
We'll be here to dive deep into those dreams with you. And a big thanks to Skip Benton at Coldwell Banker Select Real Estate for bringing us today's deep dive. If you're thinking about buying a home in Northern Nevada, give Skip a call.